Welcome to The Car Flip Show. My name's Justin. I was a part-time flipper turned full-time used car dealer. This show is all about teaching you how to buy and sell cars for profit. Thanks so much for listening. Let's get into the episode. This is episode 16 of The Car Flip Show. I actually was just talking to Yannick, or I guess you call him the producer, the video man, the everything. We were like, wow, episode 16 already. It just seems like we just started like yesterday, but it's cool to be in episode 16. In today's episode, we're actually going to be looking at kind of an overarching topic. The question that we're going to look at is, what if it were easy? And in regards to flipping, but you could apply this to other areas of life. The thing maybe that you're struggling with in life, maybe it's going to the gym, maybe it's waking up an hour early. I know for me, a while back, I did a thing where I wanted to go 30 straight days waking up at 5 a.m. It was a goal. I wanted to get up at 5 o'clock to accomplish some things before the day got started, and I actually had a calendar in my kitchen, and I had the goal, I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock, and first day, complete failure. I hit snooze, I was done. And then I had to actually think through, okay, what would make it easy? Like, what if this process weren't as hard as I'm making it? Okay, it's just 5 o'clock. Instead of going to bed at 11:30, I'll go to bed at 10. I'll save an hour and a half there. It was a mindset thing. Also, there were some things I had to put in place. I had to, okay, I'm going to go ahead and put my workout bag here. I'm going to go ahead and pack everything. I'm going to get everything ready. I had to think through, what if this were easy? Like, what if this wasn't as hard as I actually thought it was, and I'm going to put some steps in place to make it easier? And for me, that worked at getting up at 5 o'clock. I actually went over 30 straight days. I forget how many it was, but I'd make an X on this calendar I had on the wall in the kitchen, and I'd go consecutive days. And when I got to 30, I was like, why stop here? Let's keep going. I was able to get a lot more accomplished by waking up early. I'm more productive in the morning, so that was a good thing for me. We're going to look at that question in regards to flipping. What if flipping were easy? What would that look like? And how could that affect maybe your mindset in moving forward in your own flipping journey? Now, before I get into that, if you're watching the YouTube version, you're probably wondering what in the world is in my hands right now. I forgot they were there, honestly. The topic or the thing, usually we have a product or some kind of a helpful tool or thing that you can use towards flipping. Today, I wanted to talk about your local pull apart. Now, most of you, within an hour of you, there will be something, maybe it's an LKQ, there's different brands. Sometimes a local salvage yard, whatever the name of that is in your area, will have their salvage yard, and then they'll have a pull apart. So if you're just Googling in your area, your city, town, wherever you're at, and then put pull apart or pick and pull, there's different names that they call them, but it's a great resource when you're looking for odds and end parts. For example, in my hand right now, if you're on the podcast on your phone, I'll describe this best I can. If you're shifting, if you have your shifter knob in your vehicle, mostly in automatics, but some of the manuals have the same thing. You've got the handle there, and usually there's a bezel, like a silver bezel or a plastic bezel that goes around just to kind of finish that little area. It's something that isn't that huge. It's pretty simple, but if you call a junkyard and say, hey, I need a shifter bezel on a 2007 Chrysler Pacifica, they're going to say, sorry, can't help you. So then you could go to eBay or Amazon or even maybe call Chrysler. They probably could source it for you. It's probably not terribly expensive, but what I'm holding in my hand right now is that shifter bezel. Actually, we're going to call him the producer, Yannick. I think that's going to be the name. He got down and dirty in the junkyard this morning. He passed by and grabbed this shifter bezel. He grabbed these, which look really strange. These are actually I'm going to throw my shifter bezel over there. This is when you have your sun visor and you want to click it into that little holder there. For whatever reason, on our Pacifica, both of those little pieces that clip in were missing, and it's actually removable from the sun visor itself. So these odds and end things, which would have been very difficult to find without having to buy an actual sun visor, which I looked on eBay, and I think the cheapest one I could find was like 27 or 33. It was right around 30 bucks. I didn't want to do that because I needed two of them. That's 50, 60 bucks, and all I needed were these little clips. The biggest thing we were going for this morning was this. And for those of you that are listening right now on the podcast, you're saying, what is this? I can't see it. On this Pacifica, on the bottom of the body, kind of on the rocker panel, there's a piece of plastic molding. It's probably 3.5 foot long. It was missing on the vehicle when I purchased it. I actually didn't realize it until I got it back because the driver's side is all I saw when I was I'm about to drop that. That's all I saw when I was at the auction, and I just didn't happen to look down at the lower part. It was missing. It was one of those things, for whatever reason, I couldn't find one on eBay. I didn't want to call the dealer because it's a big enough part where they're going to be probably $150 for this piece of plastic. So I got on LKQ, I selected my area, and then I went and searched Pacifica. They had like 7 or 8 Pacificas in the junkyard. They actually had one the exact color of ours, which didn't matter because we just need the piece of plastic. But we may end up getting a hood off of that same vehicle because it's actually the same color as ours. Our hood's clear coat is peeling. I think the hood's like 60 or 70 bucks. So it's cheaper than me having to paint our hood. So that may be a route that we go. But I searched, I knew that the vehicle was there. It actually tells you, at least on LKQ, it tells you when the vehicle actually arrived at the junkyard. So you would be able to kind of tell, okay, maybe this vehicle has been there for a year and a half. It's probably been picked over. It might not be worth my time, but I could see this one hadn't been there very long. And even if that one didn't have it, there were 6 or 7 others that we could go grab that particular piece of molding off of. So the molding itself was 20 bucks. It cost $3 to get in. The guy at the front was nice enough to let us have the other stuff for free. So sometimes they'll do that, but not always. I did call one junkyard trying to find this part, and it was one of those, even this panel, even though I'd have been willing to, pay 50 or 60 bucks just because I needed it, they wouldn't even go out and check on it because it's one of those parts they really don't want to worry themselves with. We got it for 20 bucks plus the other 3 things for free. So your local pull-apart can be a great resource. It can definitely help you in a pinch when you need something that you're having trouble finding, or you just want to save a little bit of money. On a side note, there's actually people whose full-time incomes come from picking parts out of pull-aparts and then selling them on eBay, so it might even be a great business opportunity for you. In the past, when I was in high school, I had a certain junkyard that would let me pick parts out, interior parts. I could sell them online because they didn't know how to use eBay. I made a lot of money that summer in high school selling seats. A lot of people do that same thing with pull apart and odds and ends. They know that certain radios are worth more than others, so when those vehicles come in, they grab those radios, DVD systems, fill in the blank, odds. And I know one guy that does seat motors. There's certain seats on certain vehicles that are very common for those seat motors to go bad. He gets the seats, disassembles them, pulls the motor, sells them on eBay, and does very well. So that might be a business opportunity for some of those that are thinking that direction. So LKQ, pull apart, pick and pull in your area can be a great resource for you. So that's our resource for today. Our topic, the thing we're going to be looking at and discussing as it pertains to car flipping, is the question that I mentioned earlier. What if it were easy? And we talked about how that applied to me when I was trying to get up early. If flipping for you sounds like something that would be too difficult or something that you just can't wrap your head around, you're afraid that you're going to spend, and this is when I ask people the most difficult thing that's keeping them from flipping, a lot of times it boils down to this. I get told this a lot. I'm afraid I'm going to lose money. So they have $1,000, $2,000. They're afraid they're going to invest that $2,000 and they're never going to see it again. One good thing about car flipping is, as opposed to trading stocks, or I've had some friends that have done the day trading thing, you can invest $2,000 in a stock, and 7 days later the company can file bankruptcy and you can lose all your money. The great thing about car flipping is that your car can never be worth zero. There's always some value in a vehicle. If you buy a car for $2,000, even if you mess up and you valued it wrong and it had a problem, most always you can at least get back to what you paid for it. So with your first flip, maybe you pay $2,000, you overpaid for it, you had a problem you didn't understand or recognize, and you ended up selling it for $2,200. You only made $200, or maybe you just broke even. The information and the knowledge that you would gather from that transaction is going to help you to be more successful in the next, which is actually why I built the car flip course, was to help people get the confidence that they needed so that they don't break even on their first flip, but they don't lose money on their first flip. They can actually make money from the get. So for me, it's downloading everything that I know about flipping into that course. That's at thecarflipcourse.com. It's actually not open right now if you're listening to this in real time. In the future, we're going to be reopening it for new enrollments, but currently it's not. But it's a great resource for those that don't have that confidence to get started right now and are just kind of on the fence thinking about it. But going back to that overarching topic of what if it were easy? I'm going to break down a few different areas of car flipping. For me, there's a process. I use the same process every single time. That process is inside the course, and I break those things down into very small pieces and go through them in pretty thorough detail. But if I was going to break down the flipping process into big chunks. I'm going to break them into 4 chunks. There's finding, like you can't, buy a car if you don't find it. There's evaluating it. Once you find the car, what do you do with it? Is it something you should pursue? Is it overpriced? Are there mechanical problems? What kind of things should we look for? There's negotiating. Once you find the car, most of the times there's going to be things that have to be negotiated from a price standpoint. When you get there to look at it, there's going to be things you're going to find that you didn't know about that you're going to need to discuss from a price standpoint. And then there's selling it, right? If you buy the car, you clean it up, and then you don't actually sell it, you haven't done anything. So in selling, I'm kind of combining reconditioning because that's kind of a marketing. I mean, if you don't clean it up, make it look nice, you're not going to sell it. So we're going to kind of throw that all into one big bucket there. But let's go to finding. What if finding cars were easy? What would that look like? And so you could kind of go through the different scenarios, right? If it were easy, right, deals would just pop up. You wouldn't have to do any work. They would just be there all the time. You could go find these cars anytime you wanted. Now, that's not exactly how it works. Anything that's worth doing generally is going to be, or at least have some level of difficulty. The great thing about that, though, is the more that you do it, the better you're going to get at it and the easier that's going to seem. So I have been around people, I have family that flip cars. On my wife's side, my dad does this full time. He's like Jedi ninja at it. But I have other family on my wife's side that do it, and they're great at it. But I've been at their house, you're just hanging out. They live by the beach. We've been by the beach, and I'm seeing them scan. They're like, man, there are no deals. Like, I can't find any deals on Craigslist right now. There used to be way more deals. And I'm literally scanning the same list of cars because that's just something it's hard for me not to do. I'm there and I'm visiting, and I'm scanning Craigslist too, because there have been times where I've been there visiting and actually bought a car while I'm there visiting and make $3,000, on a vacation there visiting family. So they're scanning, and I'm looking at the exact same cars, and I'm thinking, there's one, there's another. Like, I just found 3 cars in 5 minutes, and he's been scanning for 30 minutes and hasn't found any deals. The more you do it, the better you get. Just like in basketball, the more free throws you shoot, the higher your free throw percentage is going to be. Whatever it is that you currently do, think about when you first started, like maybe from a profession. What was your first day like compared to what are you and how are your competencies in that area now? The more you do something, the better you're going to get at it. So those things that seem difficult now, what if it were easy? What if you could just find deals anytime you wanted? For me, that is the case. I have a system in place that I can scan for the exact cars that I want. I click a button on my phone. It only pulls up the cars I'm interested in the price that I'm interested in. If there are no deals, I check it again in 20 minutes. I check it again that evening. And I constantly scan for deals, and those deals do pop up. If they didn't, I wouldn't have a business, but they always do. There's always someone that eventually prices a car at a good enough price that I could then negotiate it to a lower price to make money. So if you can put those processes in place, which I don't have time to get into today, that process could become much easier. The evaluation stage. What would evaluating a car look like if it were easy, right? You would just get there and little like red flags would pop off the side of it, right? The tire on the inside is worn. I got a bad ball joint in the front. Transmission fluid's low. Oh, do you feel that shimmy at 37 miles an hour? Those are things that would just naturally present themselves. You wouldn't have to worry about buying a bad car because they would all just tell you. I don't know if you've ever watched Psych. Actually, if you look at the pineapple right there, if you're watching on YouTube, that's kind of my homage to Psych. If you've ever watched it, he's a fake detective, but he has these psychic abilities that he pretends like he has. And so when he focuses on something, he sees things that other people don't see. So Sean Spencer would hold his hand up here, and all of a sudden, things highlight, you see different things. He sees all this stuff and he puts it together and he solves the crime at the end. Very entertaining show. You should check it out. For me, I guess I kind of have that feeling when I get to look at a car. I see this, I see that, I feel this. What's that shimmy at the 37 miles an hour? Is that a transmission or is that a misfire? I can plug my scanner up to it. I can see, oh, it's got a misfire on cylinder 2. They think their car has transmission problems, but all it is probably a spark plug or a coil. That gives me a leg up on the negotiation side. I know that I can buy tires for $37. They are assuming a set of tires is going to be $700. So I have the numbers in my favor on that deal. The more that you do things we talked about, the easier they get. The more that you evaluate, the better you're going to get at it. Inside the course, there's several modules that take you through what I look at on the interior, the exterior, the mechanical side, and the drivability. Those are all areas that you will need to focus on. But although you're not going to be standing beside a car and it's going to tell you what's wrong with it, done correctly, you can evaluate out 99% of the things that could go wrong with the car. Now, there are instances where you're going to miss something. Like recently, I bought a vehicle with a bad head gasket. Those things are going to slip by every now and then. You've got to take the good with the bad. So those are things that could happen, but it is possible to evaluate properly and for it not to be that difficult if you have the right processes in place. Negotiating. What if negotiation was easy? What if you just made offers and everyone said yes? That would probably be the easiest. That's not going to happen. It's just not. Some people will get upset when you make a lower offer. For example, a guy, I made an offer like a $2,000 below what he was offering or asking for the vehicle. The best response that I got, which was from him, he just responded one word. He said, never. And I was just imagining him there, like by his phone, like just saying, never. Like, not, anyway, my wife laughs at me when I tell that story because it's probably pretty dumb. But for me, that was funny. And most of the time, you're going to get no's, right? For every 10 offers you send, you're probably going to get people that say no more often than not. But someone will always say yes. And that doesn't mean you have to lowball every single person that you're making an offer to. I'm not the biggest fan when someone lowballs me, but in the back of my mind, we got to think, okay, props, you're doing your best to get a good deal. I negotiate in a way that is not, I guess, confrontational. I'm not telling someone, your car isn't worth this. I'll only pay that because it's a piece of junk. I'm saying, all I have to spend today is fill in the blank. That's how I'm approaching it. It's a money issue on my side, not their car isn't worth it. Eventually, someone generally says yes. Now, sometimes you're going to run into situations where someone already has their vehicle priced so low, you don't need to negotiate up front. You have to know those things. For example, bought a Jeep Wrangler, guy had it priced for $4,000 not long ago. I didn't negotiate because I knew if I did, I would lose the deal before I got there. So I said, when can I meet you? I have cash in hand. I bought the car for $4,000. I tried to get him lower, but he wasn't going to come any lower. But I waited to negotiate until I got there. Those are things that you'll learn as you go. Negotiation really isn't that difficult. It's just communication. It's me asking the person for what I want. But what I want has to match up with what they need. If we can get those two things to match up without them being offended, there can be a win-win in that situation. So just because I offer someone less than they are asking doesn't mean that they really don't need that money tomorrow to make a house payment or to make fill in the blank bill happen. So those things can be a win-win, and often they are. The selling side, obviously, what if it were easy? That would be, I posted it sells that same day. It's not always going to happen, but there are things that you can put in place to make that process a lot easier. I said earlier that I'm combining the selling and the reconditioning side. You can make it easier on yourself when you do recondition certain areas, whether it's the interior, the exterior. Like we got these parts from the pull-apart today. It's going to help when someone sits inside the car. There's not going to be things that are going to be glaringly obviously wrong in the interior. There's still some more cleaning we have to do, but we want to remove as many objections as possible. We want to market it in the most effective way possible at the most reasonable cost. For me, I like free marketing, so Facebook Marketplace is an amazing place right now. It'll probably eventually get to the point where it's not as effective as it is right now, so you need to use Facebook Marketplace the most you can right now while it is as effective as it is. Craigslist is not a bad place. It is free if you're not a dealer, as well as Offer Up and Let Go. I get a good bit of hits from those currently, but Facebook Marketplace is my go-to. Those are all free. Car Gurus does have a, I think, 3-car limit you can list there for free. It's not a bad place. I've sold a car on there, a couple cars, but Facebook Marketplace is the go-to right now. So you have to have a vehicle that is in front of people so that they can actually see it, whether it's online or in person. Maybe you have a good road, some good road frontage somewhere that you can place it. People need to see it, and when they see it and they come to look at it closer, there needs to be things that aren't blatantly, obviously, glaringly wrong with it. At least as long as they, aren't glaringly wrong and you're asking top dollar. So if you're asking top dollar for your car and you have major issues, that's a problem. If you have the vehicle priced very competitively and you have a rip in a seat that's been fixed a little bit and it's not that big of a deal, that's a different story. If you've got worn tires, but the vehicle's priced really cheap, those things can, coexist. If you have a vehicle that's priced way high and you have XYZ problems, those are things you might want to evaluate just from a time standpoint, because obviously the lower you price it, the faster it's going to sell. But there is something to be said for being patient and pricing your car properly. I don't want to undercut myself and lose potential profits because I priced too cheap. So if I can spend $23 at the LKQ and make myself an additional $500, I'm going to spend that money because that's money well spent. So keep that in mind. This has been kind of a heady episode, just kind of discussing, I can't say that word, discussing overarching issues. So what if it were easy? What would that look like? Play that out in your mind and then work backwards. Okay, if it were easy, this, and this would happen. How do I make this, and that happen? Work backwards from the start. Kind of like when you were a kid and you did the maze, little maze thing with a piece of paper. It was always difficult until someone told me, if you start at the back, you can finish it twice as fast. That's actually a true statement, and for whatever that's worth to you, it works with car flipping as well. Or maybe you're wanting to get up at 5 a.m., work backwards. For me, it was having the gym bag packed, having my clothes laid out, I went down to where I had my oatmeal. I had the water already poured in the pot. It was set on the stove. I had my oatmeal and brown sugar already there. So I got up and it was boom, boom, boom. When the alarm went off, I knew everything was ready and prepped. If I didn't wake up, I was gonna have to put it all away because I wasn't gonna be able to use it. So that was motivation for me to do that. With car flipping, maybe it's just starting out by scanning for deals, learning the pricing in your market, and then growing from there. So I hope this episode has been helpful for you in understanding what if it were easy, what would that look like, and how do you get there? So thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you have not yet subscribed, it would be insanely amazing if you would do that. It helps this show become visible to more people. If you had an extra 3 minutes to post a rating and review on iTunes, that would be even better. Otherwise, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode.